New year, new me. Plenty of us plan to make changes as we enter a new year, and plenty of us break those resolutions pretty quickly. Mine went on lunchtime on New Year's Day, actually. But what sort of changes might some of our best-known brands need to make as we enter a new decade? Well, the global CEO of WPP's brand consultancy, Super Union, Jim Pryor, is with me now. Jim, welcome to you. What are the sort of things that you're talking to clients to right now?
Well, I think this is a New Year's equivalent for business of eat less, exercise more going on in some ways. So I think we're seeing brands take sustainability very seriously. That's the eat less bit. So right the way through the supply chain, how do you make better use of materials? Obviously, in something like packaging, that's a very important topic. But I think right the way through manufacture and processes, also the way that companies behave, the way their employees leave a footprint in the world and so forth. So sustainability and responsibility aligned to a broad sense of social purpose is one thing. On the exercise more front, it's how do we respond faster to changes in technology? How do we adapt more to the changing habits of consumers? You know, how do we adapt? We're in the era of 5G, as you were talking earlier on. What does that really mean, and how do we adjust to that? And then, looking at competitiveness in the context of companies having access to largely the same information and the same technologies. How does creativity really give you an edge, really help you stand out, really get you ahead and give you that business advantage and grow?
So I know you can't talk about specific clients, but are there certain sectors that are more challenged than others in some of these regards?
Well, almost everybody is facing some form of change in this sector. We've come out of a decade where almost the theme word was disruption. And I think it's interesting as we head into 2020. I mean, disruption is such a negative term, actually, for me. It's almost as though the goal was to destroy the status quo. I think really now what companies are looking at, and I think in almost every sector, is how do we bring in newness? How do we add in value to the world? The question is not what can things do, but why is that valuable to people? So those are the questions people are asking in a really complex environment where the media is changing all the time, behaviours are changing all the time. How do you get ahead in that?
But is that compatible with some of the things that you've described earlier? I mean, your first theme, it's almost consume less, whereas if you're a consumer-facing brand, you obviously ultimately want to encourage consumption.
Well, look, the business of brands and marketing is really about how you connect together a set of capabilities that organisations have and a set of needs that audiences have. And when you do it well, those things align really closely. So people need and want things, and part of what they need and want right now is a more sustainable future for the planet and for humanity and for society. So I don't think they're necessarily misaligned. It's not about mass consumerism for the sake of it, but you do have to take a responsible attitude in business to how you make sure that those things do go together well.
And I mentioned earlier on in the programme, the car industry obviously had a particularly unmemorable 2019. I mean, how would you go about generating a bit more optimism in the auto industry?
Just make them all electric really, really, really fast. I mean, electric cars are 100% the future of automotive. The design possibilities are enormous. You're not restricted in the same way as conventionally engineered cars are in terms of what you can do with space. So the design possibilities are huge. Automated driving is going to turn cars into offices, into cinemas, into restaurants.
But no one can afford these cars, though, Jim.
Well, that's the challenge that the industry is working on and has to move fast on. I would like to see a real acceleration of investment in the machinery and the plants that will develop that in that the price is coming down. And watch out for China on that, by the way, because Chinese car brands are well ahead in terms of developing the technologies and the manufacturing capabilities that will allow those sort of vehicles to be produced at much more mass market prices. But it does need to go fast, but I think it's going to be phenomenal. I'm an electric car driver. I love it. It changes your attitude towards driving, and I think that's a big change we're going to see this decade.
And very briefly, what about the tech sector? Are they going to be on the back foot again this year?
No, the tech sector's been on the front foot for 25 years now. You look at the biggest companies in the world, in the world. Many of them didn't even exist 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and they're fantastic vehicles for innovation. They're incredible companies like Amazon and Google and Tencent and Alibaba and the likes. They're really pushing hard with innovation, and Amazon. So amazing future for them all.
All right, Jim Pryor, great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.